Okay, here I'm about to replace the worm block on a Paramount MX. Here's some of the tools I think I'm going to need, so we'll see how we go. Got some Allen wrenches there, various sizes, some masking tape to cover up the holes. The instructions, we've got one for doing the cam stop, and the other is the MX Worm Assembly block instructions. So we'll see how we go with that. Okay, first step is to remove the worm block cover. We put this to the balance position, the cam stop, and we take out the 4 screws. So take out the first one, take out the second one, nice and easy with a T-wrench. The next ones are a bit trickier because you can't get a T-wrench in there, so we've got the toolkit that came with the MX that's got a ball head on there, so that'll allow us to twist it at an angle, get it out. That's 3, and this one's nice and loose. Alright, that's 4. So we've got the 4 screws out. Okay, the 4 screws are out. I'm now going to peel off the warning label so that the worm block comes out, and then I'm gently going to ease it out. And there we go, that's the cam stop, and here we can see the exposed worm block. Just taking a quick video here showing you what it looks like, the worm block once it's exposed here. Not too many people have probably seen the real thing inside one of these. Sorry about the lighting there. There's the pulley and the motor, and this is something we'll have to adjust a little bit later here with a finger. That's the cam's tension adjuster, so we'll see more of that one a little bit later. Okay, just showing one other thing before we take the worm block out, and that's the belt tension. You can see the relative tension on the belt there, and the idea is that when it twists you don't see it getting slack on each side, so the tension is basically the same on this side as it is on that side. It's kind of hard to see on the video there, but you can get to see it. It's reasonably firm, but not too firm that it's tight. You can see this whole mechanism pivots as well. It's a really clever design. Okay, we're now going to remove the motor screws. There's 1, 2, 3 and 4. One's behind the belt, and 3 of them have got washers. The top one does not. The 3 kind of act as a rotation mechanism. They rotate about the top screw to allow you to tension the belt system. So here goes. We're going to take off the bottom screw first. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. Oh, this one's being slightly held in by the belt, so a bit trickier to pull out. And then finally the top one behind the belt. This is the one that does not have a washer. I can see the motor moving itself loose. Make sure that doesn't drop. Okay, looks like it's free. Remove the belt. Get rid of that tension. No, not yet. There you go, and the final one out. Okay, I should be able to move the belt now. Yep, that's easy enough now that the motor's loose, and that will give me the ability to move the motor out of the block. So that looks like it's going to take a little fiddling, so I'll just pause and come back to that when I figure it out. Okay, here I'm going to show you how to get the motor out. Basically the wiring in here is all twisted down in there below, so you just twist it up, effectively you just pull it sideways and you can see it comes out relatively easily. There's a bit of slack in here with the cable, so that allows me to remove that. Now I'm not going to take this out completely, so I will dangle it over the side and that'll allow me to work on it. What you can see over here too, if I lift up the camera, there's a big hole there where it fits into, so we don't want to drop any screws into that hole, so I'm going to cover that hole up with some masking tape, and that'll keep us from stopping any screws and doing anything stupid. Okay, so I've just got regular Scotch 3M masking tape, the blue stuff, and I just happen to have it lying about, but it's what I would have used anyway. It's really good stuff because it doesn't leave any residue. So yeah, it's such a beautiful mount. You don't want to stuff it up by leaving any stupid residue on there. So it shouldn't take more than a handful of pieces to seal that up nicely. And that one will do there, and one final one right at the top. I think what I'm also going to do is tape up the motor just in case something comes loose. Unlikely, but better safe than sorry. So there you go. So let me lift that up and you can have a bit of a look. Here we can see there's the tape, the hole's all covered up. Motor taped up, and that's going to stop us dropping any screws in there. Okay, we're about to move on to step 3 now, and that's removing the worm block. I'll just zoom in a little bit here so we can get a better picture of what's going on as I do it. Basically I'm going to be removing 4 screws, 2 up here and 2 through the access holes over here. The tools that come with the mount are fine to use here. So there's 2 Allen heads. One I think's a 9/64 and the other's a 332. So it says to do the bottom ones first through the access hole. So I'm going to do that. So get it in there, make sure it's seated really properly in the head. We don't want to strip this, and give it a good twist. Now that's really hard. That's not coming out with the force that I'm able to exert on that. So I might have to come up with an alternative strategy there. Yep, that ain't going anywhere. So, plan B. Okay, back again for plan B. Now plan B is certainly not elegant, but I have no other solution. So I've taken a set of vice grips and I've just attached it to the tool that came with it to get more leverage. And put it in through the access hole, and yep, there you go, that's done it. That's 1 loose and 2 loose here. That's snap. Right, that wasn't actually a snap, that was just the thread breaking on the lock. Well, not breaking, but the actual screw coming loose. So now I can screw that out. And now I can see why they tell us to use tape, because that screw would just drop straight into that hole if I hadn't taped it up there, or if I had dropped it. And same with this one. Loosen it right up. And it's going to drop. I think I'll just have to let it fall and find it. Yep, okay, got it on the floor. So very important you tape that hole up, because I can see how both of those would go straight in there. So those are the bottom 2. Now for the top. So we'll pick the first one up here, and we can use the short end this time to get a bit more leverage. And yep, well, that one's less tight. And I'll loosen just this one up, just snip it loose. There you go. Okay. So screw that one loose. Just double check I'm recording here. Yep, I am. And pop that in the pocket. And then this one, you've got to hold onto the worm assembly now because it's dangling free effectively. So loosen that one up. And the whole unit pops out. And as you can see, here's the worm block that comes loose. And everyone's dying to see what this worm looks like. And there you have it. So that's the worm block on a Software Biz Paramount MX. Okay, be right back. Okay, I'm just about to start the procedure of putting the new worm block back. So what you can see here is the screws. I'm a bit paranoid about losing stuff like this. I've got some plastic clear cups that I take the screws out and keep them in, and behind it is the new worm block, and over there in the corner is the belts that Software Biz sent me to replace as well. So ready to go reverse the procedure. Okay, so I'm going to put the bolt back. Here's the new worm. I've lightly greased it with the appropriate grease recommended, and I've put the screw in first just so that it's sort of flush, so that I don't have to fiddle around with it. So you've got to put the belt over first, so there's not enough room to put it on later. And so once the belt's just lightly hanging over there, we can start to position the worm back in the appropriate spot. So it looks all straight. Put it through the access hole and screw there, and see if we can line this bad boy up. Okay, I can feel the thread engaging there, so I'll just loosen that, or nip it up, should I say, gently. Okay, I won't do that very tight, just literally finger tight very gently. Now I'll go and get the other larger of the two bolts. So that's this one over here, and again I'll feed it up through the bottom and then put through the access hole and line it up. Okay, so it seems tricky, but it's quite easy once you get the first one in. Okay, so that's pretty well lined up. Now I've got the next two bolts to do at the top, so grab those. Okay, start with number one, feed that in gently, and there we go. And this thing's machined to beautiful tolerances. There's no fiddling around, it just slides in, the holes line up. It's great, expect nothing less. And here we go, next one in, same thing again, exacting tolerances, and in we go. Great. Alright, so those are in just finger tight, and I'm actually not going to do them any tighter just yet till I've got the motor back in position. So, okay, rereading the instructions and having a bit of a think about it, I do need to tighten those up before I replace the worm. So what it says to do is to back off the bottom larger screws very slightly, which I had done anyway. So yeah, those are hardly tight at all. And then to tighten up the top ones. So basically you don't want to snap those off, so they're just kind of, I don't know, you've just got to feel them, but when you feel you've got enough force, you don't need to jam it in there, but just get it pretty tight. So I've done that. I can now tighten up the bottom ones. Now the bottom ones, you remember when I undid them, you heard the force that I tightened those with, or had to undo them with. I had to use vice grips. So I'm pretty much at the limit of what I can do on that, so I'll reattach the vice grips so that I can get the appropriate torque on that. Right, so here goes the first one, and that's about good. And yeah, and and that'll do that one too. Right, so now the worm block is nice and tight in space, the belt is on, and the mechanism is moving freely. All is good. We're ready for the next step. Okay, so next step is the motor, so we can peel the tape off that covered the holes. And what a wonderful suggestion that was, because I know I would have dropped those in there. Okay, so tape's off. We can undo the tape that I put in as a safety measure to hold the motor in place. Okay, so tape's off, motor's ready to go back, and belt's in place, worm gear's in tight. I noticed on my motor that where the belt goes, there's a little bit of dirt there, so I'm actually going to get my air compressor and keep that away from the mount and just give it a get that. Just any impurities that might impact the tracking. Right. Okay, that's done. I've cleaned off the what little impurities I saw on there. Now I've got to get the motor ready to slide back in. So push it in very gently, and just work the cabling back into the spot as I put it in. Delicate with this part, so we don't want to pull any cables unloose and have something we've got to worry about fixing later. Okay, so that's in there, and with the right angle I'm sure I can get the belt over there as well. I don't want to stretch that, so there we go. So belt's now over as well, and I'm ready to put the 4 screws back on the other side of the motor. Okay, so now I'm going to put the motor screws back. I'm going to start with the one at the top that did not have the washer. And it looks like I've managed to line it up first go with a bit of luck. Go and get the next one. And again, looks like I got lucky, and it won't tighten these up because obviously I've got to adjust the tension on this belt. Put the bottom one in. This one looks like it'll be a bit tricky. There's a bit more of a space to move that. Oh, dropped it, because it did. Okay, nothing too traumatic, found it. And then the last one behind the worm belt. This might be a bit trickier, we'll see how we go. Okay, does help having a screwdriver that's got some magnetism on the head. Right, so those are in. I'll just pause now and figure out how I'm going to tension the belt. Okay, now I'm going to adjust the worm block tension. So the idea here is that it basically doesn't have any sag or backlash, so that when you're moving that backwards and forwards, you can't see the belt bend. It's quite hard to actually show on camera doing it. You can see here, if I push here, the bottom there moves quite easily, which is equivalent to backlash, and if I do this, you can't really see it, but this bows out very slightly, and it bows out over here. So what you want to do is put a bit of tension on the cable by pulling the motor back, just enough to get it straight, and then nipping up the bottom screw, and I'll just nip up one of the side ones. There you go, and that feels about like as much tension as I had before. It's not too much. Might actually be a little bit much. I'm going to back that off very slightly. a bit much. Very subtle. Just got gentle pressure with my thumb. Turn that up. Right, as I rotate that backwards and forwards, I can't see any bowing in there, so that looks about right. Okay, next we're going to reattach the worm block mechanism. Now, we're only doing this temporarily because we've got to adjust what's called the cam stop, which is this thing over here. So before we do that, what we've got to do to adjust the cam stop is loosen this little set screw here, not the one above. So the button head, should I say, not the set screw. So there's a set screw here, there's a button head here. Do not touch that set screw, only the button head. So release that, one full turn, so all the way around to the top. Now you put your finger on this little pin and you push down as hard as it'll go. Okay, so it's down as far as it can possibly go now, which is where you leave it. So that's all we do right for this minute. Now we get the worm block and just 2 of the worm bolts, and just make sure this thing's recording. Yep, it is. Battery flashing, running low, and we line everything up and gently ease it back in, and you'll hear it click. Now diagonally we'll do one on this side and we'll do the other down on this side, and just nip those up very lightly. Oh, got the wrong one here. It's the bigger one. Right, so there you go, that's nipped up, and the other one's nipped up. So currently, also note this is in the balance position. Now, what it says to do is grab the RA axis by the where the counterweights go, the declination shaft, and it says gently wiggle that while turning the cam stop here to the track position so that the worm gear gets seated. So I'm going to slowly start the movement here and just see when it engages. And I can feel it starting to engage, and now I'm going to just keep wiggling that gently, keep wiggling that, and there you go. So that's now locked in to the right spot. And what you can see here, there's a hole that lines up as well. So what we have to do here now is take that same screw and through there nip up that set screw that we just loosened a full turn before. So here now I should be able to turn it all the way, and you do it basically as tight as you can with this. Okay, I can't do it any more than that. So now I can, come on, it's stuck a little bit. Pull it out, yep, no problem. So once I've done that, I now take the worm gear cover off again. So back up to the balance position, undo the bolts, yep, still recording, battery light flashing, but hurry. So 2 bolts out, ease the worm block back off again. Now the tension on the cam stop should be set perfectly. What we do now is nip it up. This time we use the short end so we can get some power into it. So we don't want to strip the head of this either, very important little bolt. So let's make sure we get this seated in really well before we try and nip that up. Okay, that's it. Done. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all good. Okay, we're going to replace the worm cover now for the final time as part of this assembly. So make sure we're in the balance position, line it up. Slowly, just gently squeeze on, and you'll feel it click into place. It's a definite click, and there's actually an alignment groove. Put one of the screws in, slightly snug that up, and opposite, and do the same thing, snug that up. Don't do these tight yet until we get the other corners in. Right, and one more, and the other one. Just did them up with my fingers for a second. Okay. So tighten them now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. These don't need to be that tight, just tight enough to snug it up. So there you go. Okay, and I think we just nip these up for the final time. Yep, that feels tight. This one feels tight. Yep, good. Okay, all good. Right, so we're done. That's how you replace a worm block and adjust the cam stop on a Paramount MX. Hopefully this was useful to you and save you a bit of trouble if you try it yourself. Not a difficult procedure, took a bit longer obviously because I was videoing it, but relatively simple to do. I didn't really, well, why did I replace my worm block? My PE was probably just outside of spec. Spec is supposed to be plus or minus 7 seconds peak to peak, and I was getting approximately 8 or 9. So the BIS guys kindly sent me a new worm block to try out and just sort of rule that out of the equation. So I can't seem to find any other reason for the PE to be as high as it was, although it was very smooth. So I'll report back and let you know how it goes. Thank you for watching.